Jake Morrison looked out the window of his spaceship and saw nothing but darkness. The stars were there, but they seemed cold and far away. He had been in space for 15 years, but tonight felt different. Tonight, the darkness felt angry. The bridge of the UE Scifiant was quiet except for the soft hum of computers. Jake's crew of 68 people worked at their stations, checking systems and running tests. They all knew what was coming. Everyone in human space knew what was coming. The Zirathi were coming to Earth. Danny Rodriguez sat at the communications desk, his fingers moving over the controls. "Commander, we have another message from Admiral Carter," he said. His voice was steady, but Jake could hear the worry underneath. "Put her through," Jake said. He straightened his uniform and tried to look confident. His crew needed to see him strong, even if he felt scared inside. Admiral Lisa Carter's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired. Her gray hair was messy, and her eyes had dark circles under them. She had been working for days without sleep, trying to organize Earth's defense. "Morrison, I have new intelligence about the Zirathi fleet," she said. "It's worse than we thought." Jake felt his stomach drop. "How much worse?" 2,000 ships, Carter said. "Each one is as big as a small moon. They destroyed the Henderson colony yesterday. 30,000 people. Gone in less than an hour." The bridge went silent. Everyone stopped working and stared at the screen. 30,000 people. Jake had friends at Henderson colony. Had friends. Amy Watson, the chief engineer, spoke up from her station. "Admiral, what about our weapons? The new plasma cannons we installed last month?" Carter shook her head. "Our best weapons can barely scratch their ships. The Zirathi use some kind of living metal for armor. It heals itself faster than we can damage it." "What about the other human fleets?" asked Ben Parker from the navigation station. "Surely we're not fighting alone?" "The Third Fleet was destroyed at Titan Station," Carter said. "The Fifth Fleet is protecting the evacuation ships near Jupiter. The Seventh Fleet... double quotes." She paused. "The Seventh Fleet no longer exists." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. 3 entire fleets gone. Thousands of ships and hundreds of thousands of people. The Zirathi had been moving through human space for 2 months, and nothing had stopped them. Nothing had even slowed them down. "Commander Morrison," Carter continued, "I'm ordering you to fall back to the inner defense line. Join the remaining ships at Mars. How many ships are left?" Jake asked. 43, Carter said quietly. Jake felt the weight of those words. 43 ships to defend Earth and all of human civilization against 2,000 alien monsters that had never lost a battle. "Admiral," Jake said slowly, "what happens if we lose Earth?" Carter was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "Then humanity ends. The Zirathi don't take prisoners for long. They turn captured people into slaves, then into things that aren't human anymore. If Earth falls, our species dies." The communication ended and the bridge stayed silent. Jake looked around at his crew. These were good people. Danny had a wife and 2 kids on Earth. Amy had a sick mother in the Mars colonies. Ben was supposed to get married next month. Kate Sullivan, his weapons officer, had 3 younger brothers who looked up to her. All of them were going to die. The thought hit Jake like a punch to the chest. They were all going to die, and there was nothing they could do about it. The Zirathi had destroyed civilizations that were older and stronger than humanity. What chance did one small human ship have? "Commander," Kate said from the weapons station. "Incoming message from the long-range sensors." Jake nodded. "Put it on screen." The display changed to show a view of space near the asteroid belt. At first, Jake saw nothing unusual. Then the sensors adjusted, and he saw them, ships, thousands of them. They looked like giant insects made of black metal and twisted organic matter. Some were shaped like spiders with dozens of legs that moved like they were alive. Others looked like enormous beetles with shells that pulsed with dark light. The biggest ones were hard to look at directly. They hurt the eyes and made the mind feel sick. "My God," whispered Tony Hayes from the medical station. "How many are there?" "Computer says 2017, Danny reported. "They're moving at 0.7 light speed. They'll reach the outer colonies in 3 days. 3 days, Amy repeated. That's not enough time to evacuate everyone. Jake stared at the alien fleet on the screen. Each ship was easily 10 times bigger than the Defiant. Some were 100 times bigger. The smallest Zirathi ship could probably destroy his entire vessel with one shot. But something inside Jake rebelled against the hopelessness. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was just human nature refusing to accept defeat. "Ben," he said, "plot a course to intercept the Zirathi fleet." Everyone on the bridge turned to stare at him. Ben's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Sir," Ben said, "did you say intercept?" "You heard me," Jake said. "Plot an intercept course." "Commander," Amy said carefully, "we can't fight that fleet. We'd last maybe 30 seconds. "I know," Jake said, "but we can slow them down. Every minute we delay them is another minute for Earth to prepare. Another minute for the evacuation ships to get away." "Jake," Kate said, using his first name instead of his rank. "That's suicide." Jake looked around at his crew. These people had followed him for 3 years. They trusted him. They deserved to know the truth. "Yes," he said, "it probably is suicide. But someone has to make a stand. Someone has to show the Zirathi that humans don't just roll over and die." Danny turned in his chair. "What about our families?" "My kids are on Earth." "That's exactly why we have to do this," Jake said. "Your kids need time to get to safety." "Everyone's family needs time." The bridge was quiet again. Jake could hear the air recycling system and the quiet beeps of the computers. He could hear his own heartbeat. Finally, Amy spoke up. "If we're going to do this crazy thing, we need to be smart about it. Our weapons are useless against their armor, but maybe we can find other ways to hurt them." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "I've been studying the intelligence reports," Amy said. "The Zirathi ships are connected somehow. They move together like a school of fish or a flock of birds. If we can disrupt that connection, maybe we can make them confused." Kate nodded slowly. "And if they're confused, they might make mistakes." "It's worth a try," Ben said. "Better than just sitting here waiting to die." Jake felt a warm feeling in his chest. His crew was scared, but they were with him. They were going to face impossible odds together. "All right then," Jake said. "Let's go make some trouble." The used Defiant turned toward the approaching alien fleet and began to accelerate. Behind them lay Earth and everything humanity had built. Ahead lay the largest invasion force in galactic history, 68 humans in one small ship, flying toward certain death. But they were flying toward it together, and that made all the difference. The used Defiant moved through space like a tiny fish swimming toward a pack of sharks. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the alien ships get bigger on his screen. Each minute that passed made the Zirathi fleet look more terrifying. Defying. Alien ships were not like human vessels. Human ships were built with straight lines and clean metal. The Zirathi ships looked alive. Their hulls moved like breathing skin. Strange lights pulsed under their surface like blood flowing through veins. Some had tentacles that waved in the emptiness of space. Others had what looked like eyes that seemed to watch everything around them. "Commander," Danny said from his communication station, "we're getting signals from the Zirathi fleet. It's not in any language I know. Can you translate it?" Jake asked. "The computer is trying, but it's weird. The signals aren't just radio waves. They're sending something else too." something that makes me feel sick when I listen to it. Amy looked up from her engineering station. I'm reading strange energy patterns from their ships. It's like they're all connected somehow. Like one big brain controlling thousands of bodies. Jake nodded. This matched what human intelligence had learned about the Zirathi. They were not individuals like humans. They shared one mind across their entire species. It made them perfectly coordinated in battle, but it also meant they thought differently than humans. Ben, how long until we reach them? Jake asked. 2 hours and 15 minutes at current speed, Ben replied. Commander, I have to ask, what's our plan? We can't just fly at them and start shooting. Jake had been thinking about this since they started their journey. We're going to do something they don't expect. The Zirathi have conquered hundreds of worlds. They've seen every kind of defense and every kind of weapon. But they've never seen anything like what we're going to do. What are we going to do? Kate asked from the weapons station. We're going to be human, Jake said. The crew looked confused. Jake walked to the center of the bridge and faced his people. The Zirathi are perfect, he said. They never make mistakes. They never act without thinking. They never do anything that doesn't make sense. That's their strength, but it's also their weakness. I don't understand, Tony said. Humans are different, Jake continued. We make mistakes. We do crazy things. We act on feelings instead of logic. The Zirathi can't predict us because we don't even predict ourselves. Amy's eyes lit up with understanding. You want to be unpredictable. Exactly, Jake said. We're going to confuse them. Make them think we're doing one thing when we're really doing another. Make them wonder what crazy thing we'll do next. Jake turned to Kate. How many missiles do we have? 48 standard missiles and 12 heavy torpedoes. Kate said. What if we don't use them as weapons? Jake asked. Kate frowned. What do you mean? What if we program them to do other things? What if we use them as decoys or jamming devices? Or to create false sensor readings? Kate's eyes widened. That's actually brilliant. The Zirathi will see missiles coming and respond like they're weapons. But if the missiles are really doing something else, they'll waste time and energy defending against attacks that aren't really attacks. Amy finished. Jake smiled. Now, you're thinking like humans. For the next hour, the crew worked together to prepare their surprise. Amy reprogrammed the missiles to broadcast false signals that would look like other ships on Zirathi sensors. Kate modified the torpedoes to release clouds of metal particles that would interfere with alien communications. Danny prepared a series of random radio broadcasts that would flood Zirathi receivers with nonsense. Tony worked on something he called psychological warfare. He studied human music and art and prepared to broadcast them at the aliens. If their minds are all connected, he said, maybe we can give them a headache. Ben calculated flight paths that made no logical sense. Instead of flying in straight lines like military ships always did, he planned to make the Defiant dance and spin and loop through space like a drunk bird. As they worked, Jake felt something he hadn't expected. He felt proud. These people were scared, but they were still thinking and planning and refusing to give up. They were being human in the best possible way. Commander, Danny said, I'm picking up a transmission from the Zirathi fleet. It's directed at us. Can you translate it? The computer managed to decode some of it. I think they're trying to talk to us. Jake felt his stomach tighten. Put it on the main screen. The display flickered, and suddenly Jake was looking at something that made his skin crawl. The Zirathi looked like a mixture of insect and machine. Its body was covered in black plates that shifted and moved. Where its face should be, there were multiple eyes that glowed with red light. When it spoke, its voice sounded like metal grinding against metal. Human vessel, the alien said in broken English. You will stop your approach. You will surrender your ship. Your resistance is pointless. Jake stepped forward. This is Commander Morrison of the U.E.S. Defiant. We don't surrender. The alien's eyes flashed brighter. You cannot stop our fleet. You are one small ship. We are thousands. Your death serves no purpose. Maybe not, Jake said, but it serves us, and that's enough. The alien seemed confused by this answer. It was quiet for several seconds. Explain your meaning. Jake smiled, even though he felt terrified. You wouldn't. Understand, you're not human. The transmission ended abruptly. Jake turned back to his crew and saw them all staring at him with something like amazement. Did you just insult a HFY War commander? Amy asked. I think I did, Jake said. How do you think he took it? I think we're about to find out, Kate said. The alien ships are changing formation. They're speeding up. Jake looked at the display. The HFY fleet was moving faster now, and the ships were spreading out in an attack pattern. They were angry. Good, Jake said. Angry enemies make mistakes. Commander, Ben said, we're 30 minutes from contact. Should I start the evasive maneuvers? Not yet, Jake said. Let them get closer. Let them think they know what we're going to do. The minutes passed slowly. Jake watched the alien ships grow larger on his screen. He could see details now. Gun ports that looked like mouths full of teeth. Sensories that moved like searching tentacles. Hull plating that rippled like muscle. 20 minutes to contact, Ben reported. 15 minutes. 10 minutes. Jake's heart was beating so fast he thought everyone could hear it. His palms were sweaty. His mouth was dry. But when he looked around at his crew, he saw the same determination he felt inside himself. 5 minutes to contact, Ben said. Commander, if we're going to run, we need to do it now. Jake looked at the approaching fleet one more time. 2,000 ships carrying death and slavery to Earth, to his home, to everyone he had ever loved. We're not running, he said quietly. Ben, begin evasive maneuvers. Kate, prepare to launch all missiles on my command. Amy, activate the jamming systems. Danny, start broadcasting every piece of human music and art we have. The crew moved with quick efficiency. Jake felt the ship change direction as Ben began the first of his impossible flight patterns. He heard the hum of weapons charging. He saw lights flashing as systems came online. All stations. Report ready, Kate said. Jake took a deep breath. Then let's show these aliens what humans can do. The first shot came from a HFY ship the size of a city. A beam of green light cut through space and missed the Defiant by only 50 meters. The energy was so powerful that it made the human ship's hull glow red hot just from passing nearby. Holy shit, Ben whispered as he threw the ship into a spinning dive. That thing could have cut us in half. Language, Jake said automatically, then immediately felt stupid. They were probably all about to die, and he was worried about bad words. Sorry, Commander, Ben said with a grin. I meant to say holy ship. Despite everything, Jake found himself smiling. Even facing death, his crew could still make jokes. That was very human. The Defiant twisted through space like a leaf in a hurricane. Ben was flying the ship in ways that made no sense. Up, down, left, right, spinning, diving, climbing. The HFY gunners couldn't get a clean shot because they never knew where the human ship would be next. Kate, launch the first wave of missiles, Jake ordered. Missiles away, Kate said. 48 small rockets shot out from the Defiant and spread in all directions. On the HFY ships, alarms started ringing. The aliens saw the missiles coming and responded exactly as Jake had hoped. They turned their big guns toward the small rockets, wasting enormous amounts of energy shooting at targets that weren't really dangerous, but the missiles weren't trying to hurt the alien ships. As they flew through the HFY fleet, they sent out false signals that made it look like there were hundreds of human ships attacking from every direction. The alien sensors went crazy trying to track targets that didn't exist. "It's working," Danny said excitedly. "The Zirathi are firing at ghosts. They're hitting their own ships." Jake watched his screen as two massive alien vessels opened fire on each other, thinking they were shooting at human targets. Both ships took heavy damage before they realized their mistake. "Amy, start the jamming," Jake said. "Jamming active," Amy replied. "I'm broadcasting random signals on every frequency I can find." The Zirathi used their shared mind to coordinate their attacks. But Amy's jamming was filling their communication channels with noise. Suddenly, the alien ships couldn't talk to each other clearly. Their perfect coordination started to break down. "Danny, hit them with the music," Jake ordered. Danny activated the cultural broadcast system. Suddenly, every Zirathi ship in the fleet was receiving signals they had never experienced before. Human music filled their receivers. Rock and roll, classical symphonies, country songs, and jazz. Along with the music came human art, poetry, and literature. The effect on the aliens was immediate and shocking. The Zirathi had never encountered anything like human creativity. Their logical minds couldn't process the random beauty of a guitar solo or the emotional power of a love song. Some of the alien ships actually stopped firing as their crews tried to understand what they were hearing. "Ben, take us into their formation," Jake said. "Into their formation?" Ben asked. "Sir, that's suicide." "Maybe," Jake said. "But they can't shoot at us if we're surrounded by their own ships." Ben swallowed hard and turned the Defiant directly toward the center of the Zirathi fleet. The little human ship dove between massive alien vessels like a motorcycle racing between trucks on a highway. The Zirathi commanders realized what was happening and tried to adjust their tactics. But every time they aimed at the human ship, there was one of their own vessels in the way. They couldn't fire without hitting each other. Jake watched as alien ships twisted and turned, trying to get clear shots at the Defiant. In their confusion, several more Zirathi vessels collided with each other. One massive ship tried to ram the human vessel, but ended up crashing into two of its own escorts instead. "Kate, launch the torpedoes," Jake said. The 12 heavy torpedoes shot out from the Defiant, but they weren't aimed at alien ships. Instead, they flew to different points around the fleet and exploded, releasing clouds of metal particles that reflected radar signals and created false images on sensors. Now the Zirathi couldn't tell what was real and what was fake. Their sensors showed thousands of human ships that didn't exist. Their communications were jammed with human music and noise. Their perfect formation was broken as ships tried to avoid hitting each other. "Commander," Tony said from his medical station, "I'm reading something strange. The aliens' life signs are spiking. I think we're actually giving them stress." Jake felt a moment of amazement. The Zirathi were supposed to be emotionless. They weren't supposed to feel fear or confusion or anger. But human unpredictability was affecting them in ways they had never experienced. "Keep it up," Jake ordered. "All stations, maximum chaos." For 30 minutes, one small human ship turned the largest invasion fleet in galactic history into a confused mess. The Defiant danced between alien vessels, leading them in circles, making them shoot at shadows, and driving their perfect minds to distraction. But Jake knew it couldn't last forever. The Zirathi were learning from their mistakes. Their commanders were adapting to human tactics, and the Defiant was taking damage. "Hull breach on Deck 7, Amy reported. "I've sealed it, but we're losing air." "Weapons system at 60%, Kate added. "One of our missile tubes is jammed." "Navigation is getting sluggish," Ben said. "I think they hit our thruster controls." Jake looked at his crew. They were all wounded now. Danny had a cut on his forehead from flying debris. Amy's uniform was torn and dirty from crawling through damaged corridors. Kate had burns on her hands from an exploding control panel. But they were still fighting. Still human. Still refusing to give up. "Sir," Ben said quietly, "I have an idea. It's completely insane, but it might work." "What is it?" Jake asked. "That big ship in the center of their formation. The one that looks like a giant spider. I think that's their command vessel. If we could take it out, we'd disrupt their entire fleet," Jake finished. "But Ben, that ship is 10 times bigger than us. Our weapons can't even scratch it." "We don't need to scratch it," Ben said. "We just need to get inside it." Jake stared at his pilot. "You want to fly inside an alien ship?" "Look at it," Ben said, pointing to the screen. "See those openings along the hull? They look like hangar bays or docking ports. If I could thread the needle and get us inside ... we'd be trapped," Amy said. "Even if we survived the entry, we'd never get out." "We were never getting out anyway," Ben said simply. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. These people had already given everything. They had fought impossible odds for longer than anyone thought possible. They had proven that humans would not go quietly into the dark. Now Ben was offering them a chance to go out in a way that might actually hurt the enemy. "How long do we have before they reorganize?" Jake asked. "Maybe 10 minutes, Kate said. "After that, they'll have us surrounded with no escape." Jake made his decision. "Ben, plot a course for that command ship. Amy, reroute all power to engines and shields. Kate, prepare every weapon we have left. Danny, send a message to Earth. Tell them we held the line for as long as we could." "What should I tell them about us?" Danny asked quietly. Jake looked out at the massive alien fleet surrounding them. 2,000 ships filled with creatures that wanted to destroy everything he loved. But for one impossible hour, 68 humans had made them look foolish. "Tell them we did our job," Jake said. "Tell them we were human until the end." The Zirathi command ship was a nightmare made real. Up close, it looked like a giant spider that had been crossed with a machine and then brought to life. Its hull was covered in black plates that moved like breathing skin. Hundreds of smaller ships clung to its sides like baby spiders on their mother's back. Ben flew defiant toward one of the large openings in the alien ship's hull. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. 30 seconds to entry. Everyone hold on. Jake gripped his command chair and watched the opening grow larger on the screen. It was shaped like a mouth full of jagged teeth. As they got closer, he could see that the teeth were actually moving, opening and closing like the ship was trying to bite them. "Amy, shields at maximum," Jake ordered. "Shields up, but they won't last long against that much alien metal," Amy replied. She was covered in sweat and grease from fixing damaged systems. "Commander, I'm reading massive energy signatures from inside that ship. Whatever powers it is bigger than anything we've ever seen." "Kate, weapons ready?" "All remaining missiles armed and ready," Kate said. "I've also rigged the self-destruct charges from the escape pods. If we're going down, we can take some of them with us." "Danny, did you send the message to Earth?" "Message sent," Danny said. "I told them about our fight. I told them we bought them time. I told them to make it count." "Good," Jake said. "Tony, how's the crew?" Tony looked around the bridge at the wounded but determined faces. "We're all hurt, but we're all still here, still fighting." 10 seconds to entry, Ben announced. The opening in the alien ship rushed toward them. Jake could see movement inside the dark tunnel. Things that looked like mechanical tentacles reached out toward the approaching human ship. Warning lights flashed in patterns that hurt to look at. 5 seconds, Ben said. 4, 3, 2, 1. The Defiant shot through the opening like a bullet. The alien teeth snapped shut behind them, barely missing their engine section. They were inside the enemy ship now, flying through corridors that pulsed with organic light. "I can't believe that worked," Amy said. Staring at the alien walls around them, the inside of the Zirathi ship was like being inside a living creature. The walls moved in slow waves. Strange fluids dripped from the ceiling. In the distance, Jake could hear sounds like a giant heartbeat. "Ben, find us the most important-looking part of this ship," Jake said. "Already on it," Ben replied. "I'm following the biggest energy signatures. Whatever runs this thing is straight ahead." They flew deeper into the alien vessel. The corridors branched off in all directions like blood vessels. Some led to huge chambers filled with smaller ships. Others opened into areas filled with machinery that looked half alive. In one chamber, Jake saw rows of creatures that might have been prisoners from other conquered worlds. "Commander," Danny said, his voice tight with fear, "I'm picking up movement." "Lots of movement. The aliens know we're here." Through the transparent walls of the corridor, Jake could see Zirathi soldiers running toward their position. The aliens moved in a way that made his skin crawl, part insect and part machine. Some walked on 2 legs, others scuttled on 6 or 8. All of them had weapons that glowed with the same green light as their ship's main guns. "How much farther?" Jake asked. "Almost there," Ben said. "I can see it now." Big chamber ahead, lots of lights and energy readings. They shot out of the corridor into a vast space at the heart of the alien ship. Jake's breath caught in his throat. The chamber was enormous, easily a kilometer wide. In the center was something that looked like a giant brain made of metal and flesh combined. Cables and tubes connected it to every part of the ship. Lights pulsed through it in complex patterns. "That's it," Amy said in amazement. "That's there. Control center, the brain of the entire fleet." Around the central brain, hundreds of Zirathi worked at control stations. When they saw the human ship enter their sacred space, they stopped what they were doing and stared. Jake could feel their surprise and anger even through the ship's hull. "Kate, target that brain," Jake ordered. "Targeting," Kate said. "But Commander, our weapons might not be enough to destroy something that big." "We'll see," Jake said. "Fire. Everything we have." The Defiant's remaining weapons opened fire. Missiles streaked across the chamber and exploded against the alien brain. Plasma bolts burned into its surface. The giant organ shuddered and sparked, but it kept working. The Zirathi in the chamber began firing back. Green energy bolts filled the air around the human ship. Ben threw the Defiant into a wild spinning dive, but there wasn't much room to maneuver in the closed space. "Hull breach on Deck 5, Amy reported. "Another one on Deck 3. We're losing pressure fast." "Weapons system failing," Kate added. "That last hit took out our main guns." Jake felt the ship shake as more alien fire hit them. They were falling apart, but they were still inside the enemy's most important ship, still fighting. "Amy, what about the reactor?" Jake asked. "Could we overload it?" Amy's eyes widened. "You mean blow up our own ship? If we're going to die anyway, let's make it count." Amy looked at her controls. "I can start a cascade failure. It would take about 5 minutes to build up to explosion. But Commander, if we do this inside their ship, we might take their brain with us," Jake finished. "Do it." Amy's fingers moved over her controls. "Reactor overload initiated. We have 4 minutes and 30 seconds. The lights on the bridge changed from normal white to emergency red. A computer voice began counting down the time until reactor failure. The Defiant was now a flying bomb with a timer. "Ben, can you ram us into that brain?" Jake asked. "I can try," Ben said. "But the alien fire is getting heavier. I don't know if we can last long enough." More green bolts hit the ship, the bridge filled with smoke. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. Tony was moving from station to station, treating wounded crew members with basic first aid. 3 minutes to reactor failure, the computer announced. "Danny, send one more message," Jake said. "Tell Earth that we made it inside their command ship. Tell them we're going to hurt them." "Message sent," Danny said. Blood was running down his face from a head wound, but his hands were steady on the controls. "Kate, do we have any weapons left at all?" "Just the escape pod charges I rigged earlier," Kate said. "I could set them off manually, but someone would have to go to the cargo bay." "I'll go," Tony said, standing up from his medical station. "Tony." "No," Jake said. "It's too dangerous." "Commander, I'm the doctor. I'm supposed to take care of the crew. This is how I take care of all of humanity." Before Jake could stop him, Tony ran off the bridge toward the cargo bay. Jake wanted to go after him, but Ben needed help flying the ship, and there wasn't time. 2 minutes to reactor failure. The alien brain was getting closer. Jake could see details now. Parts of it were definitely organic, like a real brain. But other parts were clearly mechanical. Cables and wires ran through it like veins. It was the most alien thing he had ever seen. 1 minute to reactor failure. Tony's charges just went off, Kate reported. He did it. He got them all. The explosion from the cargo bay sent shockwaves through both ships. The Defiant lurched forward, pushed by the blast. The alien brain flickered as the shockwave hit it. 30 seconds to reactor failure. "Ben, ram speed," Jake ordered. "Ram speed," Ben confirmed. The Defiant shot forward like an arrow toward the giant brain. Around them, Zirathi soldiers were running and screaming. Their perfect order had collapsed. Into chaos. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. Danny at communications, still sending updates to Earth. Kate at weapons, even though they had no weapons left. Amy at engineering, monitoring their dying ship. Ben at the controls, aiming them at their target. "It's been an honor serving with you all," Jake said. "The honor was ours, Commander," Amy replied. 10 seconds to reactor failure. The alien brain filled their screen. Jake could see the fear in the Zirathi around it. For the first time in 3,000 years, they were afraid. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. The used Defiant, carrying 68 human souls, struck the heart of the Zirathi fleet and exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the darkness of space. The explosion lit up space like a new star being born. For a moment, the darkness between worlds was filled with brilliant white light that could be seen from Earth's telescopes. Then the light faded, and where the Zirathi command ship had been, there was only empty space filled with glowing debris. Admiral Lisa Carter stood in the command center on Earth, watching the reports come in from her sensors. Her face was pale, and her hands were shaking. Around her, hundreds of officers and technicians stared at their screens in shocked silence. "Confirm the readings," Carter said quietly. "Confirmed, Admiral," said Lieutenant Rogers at the sensor station. "The Zirathi command vessel has been destroyed. We're reading massive energy fluctuations throughout their entire fleet." On the main display, Carter could see what was happening to the alien armada. Without their central brain to coordinate them, the Zirathi ships were acting like confused animals. Some were firing randomly in all directions. Others had stopped, moving completely. Many were crashing into each other as their pilots lost connection with the fleet mind. "My God," whispered Captain Davis from the intelligence section. One human ship did this to them." Carter felt tears running down her cheeks. Jake Morrison and his crew of 68 people had been her friends. She had sent them to their deaths, and they had gone willingly. Now they were gone. But their sacrifice had broken the back of the most powerful invasion force in galactic history. "Admiral," Lieutenant Rogers said, "we're getting reports from the Mars Defense Fleet. The Zirathi ships in that sector have stopped attacking. They're just floating in space." "Same report from Jupiter Station," added another officer. "The aliens have stopped fighting. Some of their ships are actually retreating." Carter wiped her eyes and straightened her uniform. There would be time to mourn later. Right now, she had a job to do. "All units, advance on the Zirathi fleet," she ordered. "But be careful. We don't know how long this confusion will last." Across human space, the remaining defense fleets moved toward the alien ships. What they found amazed them. The Zirathi, who had seemed so powerful and unstoppable, were now helpless. Without their shared mind to guide them, individual alien soldiers and pilots didn't know what to do. Many surrendered without firing a shot. Others simply shut down their ships and waited to be captured. The news spread through human space faster than light itself. The Zirathi invasion had been stopped. Earth was safe. Humanity would survive. And it was all because of 68 people who refused to give up. On Mars, children who had been hiding in underground shelters came out to see the sun again. On Jupiter Station, families hugged each other and cried with relief. On 1,000 human worlds, people looked up at the stars and knew they were free. But not everyone was celebrating. In the wreckage of the Zirathi command ship, something stirred among the twisted metal and organic debris. War Prime Zethkalar pulled himself from the ruins of his command center. Half of his body was crushed, and green fluid leaked from dozens of wounds. But he was alive, and more importantly, he was learning. For 3,000 years, Zethkalar had conquered worlds, without ever truly understanding the species he defeated. They had technology, or numbers, or weapons, but in the end they all fell because they gave up hope. When faced with overwhelming force, they surrendered their will to fight. But these humans were different. The crew of the Defiant had known they would die. They had accepted death as certain. Yet they had fought anyway, not for victory, but for something else. Something Zethkalar was only now beginning to understand. They had fought for each other, for their families, for strangers they would never meet, for the idea that some things were worth dying for. The War Prime dragged himself to a communication console that was still working. With great effort, he sent a message to the surviving Zirathi ships scattered throughout human space. "All units, retreat," he commanded. "Abandon the invasion. Return to Zirathi space immediately." "War Prime," came the confused reply from one of his captains. "We still have over 1,000 ships. The humans cannot stop us all." "You do not understand," Zethkalar replied. "We have already lost. These humans have something we do not. Something more powerful than our weapons or our numbers." "What do they have?" Zethkalar looked at the debris around him. Pieces of the human ship were mixed with parts of his own vessel. In the wreckage, he found something that made him pause. It was a small metal plate with words written on it in human language. His translators told him it said, "USS Defiant. Earth Registry, in service of humanity." "They have a reason to fight that goes beyond logic," he said finally. "They have love." The word felt strange in his mouth. The Zirathi had no concept of love. They understood duty and efficiency, and the need to survive. But love was something alien to them, and perhaps that was why they had never truly conquered anyone. "War Prime, what are your orders?" Zethkalar made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "We withdraw from human space. Permanently. Mark their territory as forbidden. No Zirathi ship will enter their systems again." "But War Prime, the Council will not understand." "How do we explain our defeat?" "Tell them the truth," Zethkalar said. "Tell them we met a species that fights not for conquest or glory, but for each other. Tell them that such fighters cannot be defeated, only destroyed. And if we destroy them, we destroy the very thing that makes them worth fighting." The Zirathi fleet began its retreat that same day. Ship after ship turned away from human space and headed back toward their own territory. Some would never return home, too damaged by their encounter with human ingenuity and determination. Others would carry the story of the Defiant's last stand to every corner of Zirathi space. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Carter stood in a cemetery overlooking the blue oceans of home. Before her were 68 new graves, each marked with a simple stone bearing a name and the words, "Hero of Humanity." The graves were empty because there were no bodies to bury, but Carter felt that Jake Morrison and his crew were there anyway. "Admiral," said a young reporter who had come to cover the memorial service, "can you tell us what really happened out there? How did one ship stop an entire invasion fleet?" Carter looked out at the graves of her friends and tried to find the right words. "They did something the aliens didn't expect," she said finally. "They were human. They fought not because they thought they could win, but because it was the right thing to do. They showed the universe that humans don't surrender, we don't give up, and we don't abandon each other. What do you think their sacrifice means for humanity's future?" Carter smiled, thinking of the reports coming in from across human space. New colonies were being planned. New ships were being built. Children were being born who would grow up in a galaxy where humans were respected, not as conquerors, but as protectors. "I think it means we're just getting started," she said. "The Defiant proved that one human ship can block the sky. Imagine what we can do with 1,000 ships or 10,000 when we're fighting for each other." As the sun set over Earth, Carter placed flowers on Jake Morrison's grave. The stone was simple, but the words carved into it would be remembered for 1,000 years. Commander Jake Morrison and the crew of U.S. Defiant. They stood when no one else could stand. They fought when fighting seemed impossible. They proved that humans never surrender. In the distance, construction crews were already working on humanity's newest spaceship. It would be bigger than the Defiant, stronger and better armed. But more importantly, it would carry the same spirit that had driven 68 people to face impossible odds. The ship would be called the U.S. Morrison, and its mission would be to explore the galaxy not as conquerors, but as guardians. Because the crew of the Defiant had taught the universe an important lesson: nothing could stop the Zirathi Empire. Nothing except the human heart, and the love that makes us fight for each other even when all hope is gone.